Nowhere, to me, was one of the most fun locations to deal with. One of the whole central thrusts of Guardians is that we have these 5 characters who are mortal at play in the fields of gods. And when we come upon the giant head of the Celestial, we realize that there are gigantic players in this cosmic field. And it is really based in the Celestials of Marvel Comics.
These carriers can use the stone to mow down entire civilizations like wheat in a field.
The Collector has been collecting for a long time, species of all manners, antiques, everything. He's kind of like Noah from Noah's Ark. He believes that there's going to be a big catastrophe in the galaxy and the whole universe. And he's collecting all these creatures to preserve them somehow. So there's an element of altruism, but his ways of collecting might not be the best ways.
My favorite Easter egg of all is when you first walk into the Collector's Museum and we push in on Benicio as he turns towards us with those ridiculous glasses. Overhead, you'll see Howard the Duck in a tiny little glass box. But there's all sorts of fun things, and they're from Cosmo the dog, obviously, who's a guardian in the comic books, to a frost giant, to my slugs from Slither, dark elves, and all sorts of different characters. It's cool to have those references there for comic book fans to sort of track down and find. I took a lot of time planning out the third act, I took a lot of time shooting the third act, and I took a lot of time editing the third act. It was an arduous process, but I think in the end worthwhile.
The final battle is pretty much a smorgasbord of everything and more. Everything is there. Everybody has to have a moment to shine. And also, you have to believe they're not going to make it.
The universe is a very dangerous place. It's a very wild place full of conflict. And Ronan the Accuser, he's a strong force in that. He's a bad, bad guy. And all of that force and brutality is an engine towards very destructive end. That's what he's trying to bring about in this movie, is the end of days, when all the weak sink to the bottom and perish, and all the strong rise to the top and flourish.
Xandar! You stand accused.
We have this aerial fight that needs to happen with necrocrafters and pods and the Milano and jets and the Dark Aster, which is a gigantic piece out there in the sky. Just about everything that we did had to be touched by the visual effects team.
My spaceship, it was like heavy cement and metal. It's massive. They say it's the size of the Empire State Building turned over on its side 11 times. I love the design of my ship. I think it's awesome.
The journey was, well, if we can't take it down by blowing it up with one thing, what could be the thing that these Nova jets could do? So they created an energy field.
The Nova net is something that I drew as shots before I wrote it as words. And I thought of what that visually would be and how those things would link up together and how we could give the Nova Corps some awesome power that would be unique and different from things that we had seen before.
This is the moment where it all starts going down.
How you doing? I'm Chris Pratt here on the set of Guardians of the Galaxy. Behind me, the Xandar crash site.
There's fire back there, but don't worry, we've got firemen here, which has been a real treat for all the ladies. It's super intense and dirty and smoky, and everybody is having a blast. We're doing what appears to be an epic dance battle, your standard action dance-off.
Let's do a dance-off!
But in the end, we decide to essentially sacrifice ourselves for the greater good of other people. That's really the journey of the group.
You're immortal! How?
Said it yourself, bitch.
We're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
I've started to build into this universe, and that was something that excited me about creating these characters in the first place, and that we can get to know all of these characters more. And to not be, frankly, tied to this superhero concept, because at the heart of this story is not a superhero story. We aren't a superhero story at all. We're a space epic. I have some really great ideas about where these characters are going to go. I'm walking out of this interview and walking over to Kevin Feige's office to tell him what I want to do with the sequel. I'm excited to deal with Rocket and Groot and Drax and Gamora and Quill again.
If there is no jeopardy, then there's no emotional connection to it. And the fact is that Groot does sacrifice himself for his friends in this ultimate way of saying we are family.
I thought there was something interesting about that. I thought that this character has the potential to touch people in a way, to reach people in a way that none of the other characters I've ever played before have.
No, Groot! You can't. You'll die.
Which is, for me, is one of the most emotional places in the entire film.
We are Groot.
It's beautiful, it's sad, and it's an ending of that character, or so you believe.
Well, there's two Baby Groots. There's the first Baby Groot, which is basically a stick with a face. I actually love that Baby Groot. And then there's the later Baby Groot, which is a little bit more cute. By the time we designed Baby Groot, we had already shot the movie. I mean, that scene was in the script of Baby Groot dancing. But we hadn't designed Baby Groot, and it was after we had come back from London. By that time, our design team knew exactly the kind of thing I was looking for, and I described it pretty well, and it didn't go through too many iterations before we got to the Baby Groot that's on screen.
It feels like the audience is going to be with Groot for a long time. What is cooler than that?